Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. Okay, episode
I
28,
know it's time.
real life positivity.
Yes, thank you for joining
We
us.
are so delighted to be with you today, and we have, I think, a pretty amazing topic.
I know it's something we hear a lot.
It is, and it's relatable to us. I think it's really, our hope, of course, with anything that we record and discuss is that it will resonate with you and make a difference in your life by
Yeah,
just unpacking it. So our
yeah.
topic is, quote, one more thing to do,
Mm,
unquote.
man, we've heard that a lot.
I've said it.
I've said it too. I've said it too. I think one thing that's tricky is with our work with I am noticed, we're always trying to solve problems and
Hmm.
help people. And so we do create things to do.
But yes, we do.
And it does feel like sometimes we're asking people to do one more thing.
One more thing.
And I think when anytime we hear an educator or a student or a parent say that's just one more thing to do,
Yeah.
both of us just kind of go like, oh,
We hear
first of
you.
all, we do. I
Yeah,
think
we
it's like,
do.
it's really relatable. It is one more thing to do. And so then I think part of why we wanted to talk about it today is just to talk about why we think it's worth it.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to validate that statement and
Mhm.
just acknowledge that I think no matter who, I think that's why we felt would be so important for our audience. If you're an educator, we see you, we hear
Yeah.
you, we know your plates are overflowing with responsibility and the emotional needs of your students and the technical needs of your students and your culture and in your environment. Thank you for what you do. We see you.
Oh,
If
yes.
you're a parent, oh my gosh, we see you. We're parents too.
Mm.
We know our plates are overflowing with goodness and sometimes hard and all the things. And then students, oh my gosh, we see you. The amount of excellence that you pour into your everyday of learning new things and navigating schedules, whether you're a sweet elementary student or you're in the secondary space where you're navigating your future that's right around the corner going out of school. So it's relatable
It is very
and
relatable.
to everybody out there. No
Yeah.
matter who you are, what you
Yeah.
do, we see you and we're pretty sure your plate's full.
Yeah. And I think our plates are full on an average day.
Yeah.
And then something happens and it's like, whoa, where's that supposed to
Yeah.
fit?
So then that's where we need
And
capacity.
it really
Mhm.
is. It's just like, okay, so we use that term pretty easily and loosely to say full plates. But I mean, generally speaking, as a society, we run with a full plate and then
We
stuff
do.
happens,
That's right. When
or
life
the
happens.
cycle of things happen. I know we've been talking too about how it's like, well, it's this time of year.
It is.
And it's like, yeah, but that phrase works at the beginning of the school year, in the fall, in
Right.
the holidays, in the spring, the testing time, the end of the year. There's a lot. And then I also think too that sometimes people have their own everybody has their own
You
story.
bet.
They may have their own stuff that they're navigating. And one thing that I think we try to say a lot is we are using this every day. So I am noticed as one more thing to do for you or I. It's been a while since it's felt that way because for us, I think it's just a way of
It's just
being.
become a way of being.
Yeah.
And actually, what also crossed my mind is maybe there's somebody out there listening who has a pretty simplistic schedule. And
Mm.
maybe they're just kind of floating through and they don't feel overwhelmed with their schedules. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's so important to talk about all perspectives when we're discussing things like
I
this.
love that.
Even if that's you, this will serve you, this
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
because I think what we're encouraging with I Am Noticed is some simple practices that we know can become a way of being
Yeah.
and that will create
Mm.
an a way for you to live at your highest and best self.
Yeah.
And so whether you're overwhelmed, your plate's overflowing, or you're chilling and
Mhm.
feeling like you're kind of in an easy space, this will serve you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's really good.
Okay.
So I think the thing that's interesting about navigating life is that so often we're told who we are and who we're going to
It's
be
so
and what we're
true.
going to do. And there's rules around things. But there's this word that you and I have been
Ooh,
using a
it's been
lot
coming up a lot lately.
lately, agency. solid. Like I get to choose. And the things that making sure that I know the things I get to choose
Yeah.
are mine. And it kind of goes back to that sphere of influence. What can I control? What can I not control?
Mhm.
But it is crazy to me how many times, especially the fuller the plates get, it can feel like we're powerless
Yes.
to choose some of the things that we talk about with I Am Noticed.
So what we're saying is your choices and how you represent yourself are your agency.
Yeah.
Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
you
Okay.
you get to decide. What do you
Mhm.
get to decide?
Mhm.
So I get to decide what, not only just what am I going to think in my mind, but what am I going to think habitually? And so what patterns are going to be natural and easy for me to get to? So I have been intentionally noticing goodness for, gosh, that's crazy.
Your whole life.
For my whole life. That's true. Thank you. But the Notice Network is about 14 years old. So I mean, that's a long time to be like my reticular activating system in my brain.
It's there.
It's not like I try to notice goodness anymore. Now, that being said, moment of truth. There are times I need to tell myself to notice goodness.
Yeah.
Something happens, somebody says something, especially my like weakest link is that I have very low tolerance for unkindness. So
That's
if
true.
someone's being unkind and I don't like it, I have to ask myself to stop, pause ever so slightly, and choose to notice goodness.
I have a really funny story.
Man, you do about that?
I just had a quick medical procedure done the other day, and they were like asking me medical history and questions, and they asked if I had any aggressive like thoughts.
Oh,
I said, I mean, I could maybe throw a punch somebody who's really mean. And she laughed, and I was like, I'm just kidding. I probably would never do
we
that.
can't
Yeah,
really
no,
do that.
I
It's counterintuitive.
I'm so sorry, but
But
it's
it's
so
so
true.
true.
Like, I
Like
know,
we're human.
but and I know even when someone's being mean, I know they have a
That's
story.
right.
So it's like, of
That's
course,
right.
I'm compassionate and love all people, but I'm so sorry. I was like,
Yeah.
I had to say that
But
story. I was like, that's so relatable. Like, I don't like
but
being
you are
either.
naturally kind like that. And
Yeah,
if you think about
and so
it,
are you.
you've just been practicing that for so long, you
Right.
don't really have to think about it the same way that if that was a new concept to you.
Sure.
And someone said, "Hey, I want you to notice goodness." And maybe this is relatable to somebody out there. Like you were raised in a family that sarcasm was the reigning communication style, and you like the fact that you're quick-witted and quippy and kind of giving hard time is normal. Actually, I think for those people, sometimes when they hear notice goodness, they think, "Oh, that's not me."
Mm,
And so it's almost like the brain has to do something totally different. I'm being
yeah.
asked to do one more thing that's going to make the world a better place, but that is not who I am. And I think to get back to your question, what is agency? It's a willingness to say, whether I choose to notice goodness or not, I get to
Get to do this.
decide
Woo.
whether or not I'm going to be on the lookout for good things
Mm-hmm.
or I'm not. I get to
What we
decide
choose.
what I'm going to do with that information when I get it. Am I going to give someone a compliment or am I going to be a little snarky about it? What am I going to do and how am I going to be more importantly? That's agency.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty huge.
Yeah.
And so as we like look at, okay, so here's the topic. One more thing to do.
Yeah.
I have agency.
Mm-hmm.
What will I choose? So how do we, like, I think we should start navigating for our listeners and for ourselves too, because like I've caught myself.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's important to be proactive
Mm-hmm.
and to do I am noticed. So what we mean by practices within I am noticed are choosing a want to attitude, like you were saying, get to
Mm-hmm.
positive I ams,
Mm-hmm.
choosing a positive mindset
Mm-hmm.
and practicing that and being
Mm-hmm.
intentional, noticing the goodness in
Mm-hmm.
yourself and others, receiving that goodness, and
Mm-hmm.
then rippling it out,
Mm-hmm.
leading to confidence. So those are, like you said, with us, like that's a way of being for me.
Yeah.
I've done it. Mm-hmm. But let's say I have a new something I'm trying to implement and I really want to practice it and my agency is wavering.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's important, but I just don't feel like I have time.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do?
I think first of all, and it's going to sound like I'm just redirecting back to the practices, but you have to look at want to.
Well, that's true.
Like if somebody's telling you you need to do this other thing, this new thing, and it's one more thing to do and it's something I have to do versus it's something I get to do or something I get to do because I see value in I can give you the how to, but
Mhm.
it's gonna feel
Yeah,
harder.
it's so true.
So I think the first thing I would say is checking in with myself and my attitude there. Is there any value in it? Is there trust in the person who's asking me to? And I think that's one thing that's tough, whether it's we're meeting with students or teachers who don't know us yet.
Yeah,
We're asking them to trust us
we do.
before we have built that credibility often.
Can you guys trust us?
Please.
Please.
Here's the thing. I think there is a ton of research on our end on making sure that we have the most efficient and effective evidence-based approach.
Mhm.
But that isn't known outside of
Right.
our base camp. So it's like, okay, what we try to do is right away share some stories. Like, okay, these are things to do, and here's
Mhm.
the reason for them.
Absolutely.
So kind of like checking in with that, what am I grateful for about it? What's my attitude? And then owning that. That's some agency in that.
Yeah, owning it. And would also say what I've been learning lately with like implementing new things and going back to our practices,
Mhm.
and we've talked about this a lot, is just being compassionate with yourself.
Mm.
We're not expecting perfection or demanding it either, neither. Let
Yeah.
We don't want that. What we just want is, and what we're encouraging within that agency is intentionality
Yeah.
and compassion.
It's a really good expectation to get clear
Mhm.
on. I think we try, but I love even just talking about it now. I'm
Just
like, oh, I
slowing it
want to find
down.
a way to slow that down
Yeah,
because I think with especially in the education space and then as a parent thinking about our kids, we want kids to understand concepts
that's
and
right.
practices, and then we want them to work toward mastery
Hmm.
of those things. Well, when I talk about choosing a positive attitude, mastery of choosing a positive attitude, what does that mean? I mean,
It's
if we're looking
right.
at it through the lens of, does that mean I'm batting 1,000? Like, what am I doing there? Like that is, I'm always going to have a positive attitude. I'm never going to have to navigate that.
I think that's why the agency is so important, that you're choosing it and you're willing to just practice it. And that's why with I Notice, we are saying encouraging practicing things, because the more you practice, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to have an entry point,
Yeah.
and like you said, to choose a good attitude, to be able to just be open enough to try it
Yeah.
and to experience it, and then that's where I think you can get into that value for yourself,
Yeah.
because you can feel that that was beneficial.
Yeah. And you
That
can see it in others
that's
around
right, and
you.
that's right, and it will reflect in your
Yeah,
environment for sure.
for sure.
So,
So I think there's the original choosing of the
yeah,
attitude, and then I think there's some practical tools and techniques. Some of that is just okay, if I'm going to add one more thing to the plate, I really need to see where that's going to fit.
sure.
And I think a lot of times we don't even do that because we're like, well, it doesn't fit. So I'm just piling it on top. But the most effective strategy would be to look at it and say, do I have a little piece of the pie? Do I have 5 minutes?
Mhm.
Do I have 20 minutes?
What can I do?
What can I do and
What's
have a plan for
realistic?
that?
That's right. And then, and again, be flexible, because like we talked about earlier, life happens and
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't happen exactly the way you
Mhm.
visualized it
I call
or
that
wanted.
margin.
Yeah, giving
Yeah,
yourself
just
some
giving yourself a
margin.
margin. Because if you don't have a margin,
And be realistic with yourself
oof,
too, and setting yourself up to succeed and not
yeah.
fail. And they say, when you're like practicing doing something new,
Mhm.
like don't try to do like 32 things
I know.
at the same
It's
time.
hard for me.
Me too. I want to do 35
Mhm.
things.
So that's why I think too, another practical tool is if you're gonna look at carving out space, like I think in the elementary setting, teachers are really good at saying like, I'm gonna have this time. I'm gonna try to have circle time, community time, classroom time, this time
Yep,
on this day or these days. Now, reality happens and it doesn't always,
sure
but
does.
if it's not held in place at all, like all of a sudden it's October and we haven't quite gotten in a rhythm. And then by November, December, it's like that isn't really fitting at all.
Right.
So holding the space for it, It's one of the reasons why when we talk about noticing the goodness in ourselves, I say do it while you're brushing your teeth, because you're going to always, hopefully, be brushing your teeth. And then it's like, even if you're on vacation, chances are you're brushing your teeth and there's a
Right.
mirror there. So you can do a quick like check-in with
Well, I
yourself.
think that's a good example because I mean that's what we hope is for people to actually do this. Like our call to action today
Yeah.
is to take something and to not just checkbox it, but to feel it.
Yeah.
And I think it may start off as a checkbox.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, you might just like start off as like a practice, or I'm going to acknowledge, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to choose my good attitude. I'm going to try to practice positive self-talk. I'm going to go out of my way to notice one person today, at least.
Yeah.
When someone notices me, I'm going to say thank you, or I'm going to try to make a positive ripple of goodness today. So I think if you're willing to like do those things, that's great. Or maybe you're just wanting to floss more. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I think you could apply this to anything, but we're passionate about I Am Noticed, and that's our podcast today. And that's what we want to encourage. But I think it's just the acknowledgement of I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah. And so
I'll
at
try.
first, even if it's a checkbox, like that's notable. Like if you're learning a
Right.
sport, you're learning those fundamentals, you're
Right.
doing those check. But my hope would be that it goes from like, okay, every morning when I brush my teeth, I'm having a quick conversation with myself. It's not the fake Stuart Smiley conversation. It's just a check-in where I'm looking into my own eyes and I'm trying to notice goodness there. And I might notice that I start thinking about something I want to fix, and I bring myself back. I'm intentional for the time that I'm brushing my teeth. I'm kind to myself. And I'm practicing that until it becomes so comfortable and so natural that maybe I just start brushing my teeth and I'm already into that conversation with myself. I'm talking about how much it matters and what I'm going to bring to my day, and it's a kind conversation, and I didn't have to tell myself to do it. It's just a way of being.
It's such and you have really taught me there. Like that is something you've been so intentional with over the years. That's a lesson that you brought to I Am Noticed. And just so you guys know, that is one of our lessons, like in our curriculum in schools, to have like a 1 minute mirror challenge and to look at your reflection and to notice the goodness in yourself. And I recently taught this in a middle school space because we do like a lab class. And so speaking of practice, I had the students do it 3 times. And we did it one time and I gave them like hardly any instruction. Just do it. Go ahead and get your phones out. They had their computers at school. So, which I think is a good practice too, to like use your device in a healthy way, to like look at your reflection in a way that's positive. But I said, just look at your reflection and see how it goes.
Yeah.
You have 1 minute. And there was kids laughing. And I mean, some kids, we gave them permission to have their cell phones say like their Snapchat filter. Some kid's face was like all distorted and it was hilarious. And I couldn't help but laugh, but it was funny because I wanted them to just have fun with it and just practice it. And then we talked about it. Some kids are like, piece of cake, like arms were going behind their heads and feet were up on the desk. And like, that was a breeze. And some kids were like, that was so awkward. I couldn't stand it. Like, no way. No, did not like that. And some kids were quiet and didn't want to talk about it at all. So then we did it again and I gave more of like where your heart would be with that. Like what you were just saying, like, okay, let's practice focusing our attention and having a heartfelt conversation with yourself. And noticing good things. Can you come up with some positive I ams? Can you say kind things? Can you keep your mind and your attention focused? We also talked about, okay, I have a negative thought. It's just like, I'm going to swipe on it. If I'm listening to some music that I love and a song comes up I don't like, I'm going to swipe. I'm going to move past it. So I gave some intentional practices and some things to do. They did it again. It felt more beneficial to some kids. Like, okay, that was helpful. And I'm like, who thought about food? And like 90% of the kids like raise their hands because they're hungry, right? They're teenagers. So we just acknowledged that and we just talked about it. Some kids were still really struggling with the concept. So the third time in this one specific class, I had them imagine them looking at their reflection as if they were younger. And so one kid literally pulled up a picture of himself from the year before. One kid had a picture of himself when he was little. I didn't give that instruction, but they just like pulled up their younger self picture. And so we talked about how we can just talk a little softer,
Yeah.
talk a little lighter to our like younger self and just have that conversation. Like, what would you tell your younger self? Can you say kind things? So like I think that's a good example of how, like you said, it can just be as simple as I'm gonna look in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth
Mhm.
and just being intentional and pausing. And it may be uncomfortable in the beginning,
Yeah.
but maybe over time it gets a little easier.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys out there would want to just take a moment, 1 minute of your life to look at your reflection and just be grateful for what you see and be kind and say kind things to you. And it could be really challenging. You could put your feet up and be like easy breezy. But again, no matter if your plate's overflowing or it's simple, just being intentional and having agency over ourselves to know that we can do these simple things, but it's going to make such a big difference in our life.
Yeah. I think when there's one more thing to do and there's not time to do it, or we're not feeling like what we're doing is enough,
That's big.
it can just feel like, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. And I think sometimes it's just trusting and figuring out who you're going to listen to.
Yeah.
I respect that too. I don't assume that we should have anyone's trust. I want to earn that, and I know that I want people to trust us.
Hey, guys.
But I mean, there's so much. I think like I'm always learning from others, and I'm thinking
Absolutely.
like so often when I learn, the thing that is taught first will seem so obvious. And it's like, I know, yes, I know. But it's kind of like when you think about your health,
Mm,
they'll start with the basics. Are you getting
yep.
enough sleep? Are you getting enough sunshine? Are you getting enough good food and water? And are
Mm,
you taking deep breaths? And it's like, yeah, but I've got this big problem I need to
that's
deal
stuff
with.
to do, people.
And so sometimes those fundamentals can just seem so simple. And I think with I have noticed sometimes that can happen. And if it's feeling like one more thing to do, I think trusting that it's part of a bigger plan. It's part of those practices building on each other and becoming a way of being that can
Absolutely.
make us more efficient and more effective.
Yeah, because ultimately what we really hope for is more connection in a
Yeah.
culture and a climate and society
Mm.
and increasing kindness
Yeah.
and confidence.
Yeah.
And that kindness comes like even that lesson is such a great example of like that kindness starts with you.
Yeah.
And then when it comes down to maybe that student just took some time to talk to themselves in their mind and they were positive, but then the next hour they're going into where they need to pair up with somebody they don't want to sit next to them. How are they going to handle themselves?
Mhm.
That's a really big practical way of
Yeah.
how are you choosing your agency.
Well, I think that's why we say this is a proactive approach to sustainable positive culture.
Mhm.
And we can't just go right at the culture piece. We can't just go at putting posters up and saying you belong. Everyone's got to know their own sense of agency
That's
there.
right.
We come at that from both directions. Then collectively we can impact the climate. We can impact the school culture, or we can impact the climate of a family.
Yeah.
If you're out there as a parent or as a student who is a child in your home, I had this coolest story of this fifth grader recently just told me that he was on his way to school and he just apologized to his dad
Mm,
for having been so grouchy because he said, I just haven't had anyone to, and that's on me. And I'm like, whoa,
can't imagine.
wow,
What a brave kiddo.
no kidding.
Mhm.
And just to own it and then all of a sudden not be waiting on the circumstances to change, but he has the agency. He can decide
Wow.
if he's going to start his mornings like that and he's going to start his mornings like that for his dad and the whole family, or if he's going to choose to do that differently. That's doesn't mean the weather cooperated more
Or he might have had something come up, or he's
all the
missed an
things.
assignment, or he's not feeling good,
There's
or
reasons.
there's so many reasons.
Yeah.
But the more we can get to know ourselves,
Yeah.
and the more we can make those simple choices
Mhm.
and implement those little practices,
Yeah.
that will just make life flow.
It's good stuff.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. So one more thing to do becomes a way of being.
That's what we want
That's what we want.
for
Yeah.
us, for you, for the world.
And we want people to
Mm.
discern those things, because so often when we choose to do that one more thing, something else has to
That's
move to
right.
the side or become less of a priority for a bit. And so I don't take that lightly. It's a privilege to get to even be able to suggest to people the things that might help their life. But I think that it's worth a try.
It is.
And you got to make it your own, kind of going back to that original, like, what if somebody asks someone to notice and they're just not, it's not their thing, they think. Well, try it and try to make it your own.
Yeah, and be
Don't just do it
authentic.
the way somebody else is
Absolutely.
saying to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what there's definitely, we're encouraging, our hope with I Am Notice is to increase confidence.
Yeah.
And what we mean by that is someone who is feeling curious and who is making those choices. And so
Mhm.
just being able to navigate that in a confident way.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can feel a little risky in the beginning.
Yeah. The other thing in parting that I just feel important is that if you've got a group of friends and it's really normal to complain when you find out you have one more thing to do, a lot of times that happens without there being any evaluation on whether or not it's a good thing to do or not. It's just kind
Wow.
of become normal to be like, ugh, one more thing to do. And so I also, I know that can be tricky to navigate. And I just also think for myself, I've been really mindful of, the people I have closest to me, are they people who will complain before evaluating, or are they
It's a really
discerning, and
good
are
awareness.
they leaning into their own agency as well? So I think it's good to lead in that way
Absolutely. Who are you
and
surrounding yourself
be
with?
intentional.
And sometimes that's kind of nice too, like having an accountability buddy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm trying these new I notice practices, or I'm trying fill in the blank. Like, I'm gonna practice this.
Yeah.
And if I stumble, can I talk to you? Or can I, I think having good people around you is so
It's
huge.
so huge. And I
Yeah.
think for me, and I don't know if this is relatable to anybody, but I think for me, sometimes the value in that is I'll be really hard on myself when I try to add one more thing. If I don't just like knock it out of the park right away and I'm an expert at it
Yep.
right away. And then I'm holding myself at a
So
irrealistic
then you're discouraged
expectation.
and you don't want to keep
Yeah.
doing it.
And I might have a good friend like be like, hold on a second though, didn't you
Mhm.
just kind of just start doing that? Or
Yeah.
what if we held a little more space for that? Or what if that's too much space, or just that sounding board? So I really appreciate the good people, that whole philosophy
Me
of having
too,
good people.
for sure.
Yeah,
And that goes back to having self-compassion.
it does.
Hmm.
Man, it's a big topic.
Speaking of, I wish I could like talk to you guys out there. Like,
I
what do you
know,
think?
tell us.
Do you have questions? We keep talking about it, but I really do think this is important. And it is, like you said, one thing I want to end on. We do want one more thing to do to become a way of being, but it does start with one more thing to do.
It does do the
It
thing.
it does, just being willing to do the thing, being intentional. And I hope that you guys will trust us.
And the good thing about doing good things is that right away they start making good ripples.
And you get momentum,
The
baby.
same way that doing grouchy things makes ripples. So
So
let's
create positive
create.
ripples.
That's right. Let's create good ones. Yeah, we
You
need to do
guys,
that.
thank you. You could be anywhere doing anything in this moment, and you chose to listen
So
to
true.
episode 28 of Real Life Positivity, and we are so grateful for you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.